everybody, welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, welcome. Today I have another scope review for you, and this one's from Gideon Optics again. And this is the first focal plane 1:8 Gideon Guardian. That sounds a little familiar. We'll get into that in a second. All right, so for full transparency, this did get sent out to the channel for free. I've done a ton of work with Gideon, and there is more to come. I have their Alpha Red Dot series that I will be reviewing here shortly. Been using it for a few weeks at this point, and you should see that soon. I do have a monetary affiliation with Gideon as well. Any links that I give you does give me a small kickback. However, that doesn't affect my opinion or review. I try to keep these things as absolutely unbiased as possible, and anybody who's been around the channel long enough knows that. So let's get into this. So let's start with, this is a 1:8 first focal plane LPVO. I did review the Gideon Guardian 1:10 second focal plane LPVO not long ago, and apparently they now also have a Gideon Guardian second focal plane 1:8. So they have a 1:8 first focal plane, a 1:8 second focal plane, and a 1:10 second focal plane. So, and they're all named the Guardian. So I'm assuming, I can only assume that they have fired the creatives director at Gideon and just started rebranding the name over and over again for, of course, lack of confusion. So this does not come with the mount. The mount is separate. The mount is 6061 aluminum. I believe the body of the optic is 6061 as well. They don't have that on their website, much like the 1:10 that I did, but I do believe that is as well. This does have Chinese glass in it. The glass quality and glass clarity, I think, is pretty good for Chinese glass, though. Much like the 1:10, I think that the color transmission, color clarity is good in this, and I don't get a whole lot, if any, fisheye or wobble around through the image or around the edge of the image. So I think they have done a good job there. Now the eye relief on this thing is like 3.5 inches at 1x. Very easy to get behind it, and the exit pupil of it is 3 3/4, something like that. So that is just a little bit bigger than your human pupil, which means at 8x it is still very easy to get behind, and you don't have to be as deliberate behind the scope or as perfectly centered behind the scope on 8x as you do with some with the smaller exit pupil. So windage and elevation has a total of 140 MOA clicks. This is an MOA scope. They're very audible, they're very crisp. You will not roll through your clicks, you know, your settings accidentally. So I think that is nice as well. And then on this other side, there is an illumination knob for 0 to 11, and you don't have to roll all the way through it to get to 11. You can go from 0 to 11 or 0 to 1, however you please. Now the brightness of that illumination is pretty good, and that's not to take away from this, because no LPVOs have very good brightness. Some are a little brighter than others, but as far as like that expectation of like red dot fire bright, you're not going to get it out of any LPVO that I've ever used. Again, some are brighter than others. This one's somewhere in the top, you know, the upper portion of LPVOs that I've used as far as brightness. So in your dusk or dawn type scenarios, you can get, you can see the reticle very, very well. In the middle of the day, especially into, you know, facing into any sort of light source, you're not going to see it at all. But that's why it has an etched reticle. So before we get into the reticle, the throw ring here, the magnification collar is very, very smooth. Not so like easy that you accidentally bump it all the time. It just has a very smooth feel to it. It does have a removable throw ring knob here, I guess you can call it. And then the diopter, again, is also very smooth. Now this brings us to the reticle. This is my least favorite reticle of any LPVO I've ever used. in the 1 to 8 second focal plane and the 1 to 10 second focal plane, they used a chevron with a segmented circle with drops for elevation. And I don't recall right off the top of my head right now if there was any windage marks, but it was a very usable, very crisp, very nice reticle. It's one of my favorite reticles of all the LPVOs that I've used. I got this, and I quite honestly don't enjoy using it because this reticle is, I don't know, it's like somebody took a bag, put all the reticles you could find in a bag, shook it up, and then sprinkled it on the glass. There's shit everywhere in this reticle, and not only, in my opinion, is it distracting, but it actually works against some of my use case and has been a hindrance. Now, it has a sort of a standard ladder system or Christmas tree for your windage and elevation, has windage holds left and right, and then it has a giant thick star pattern around it. And what has happened with me over and over and over again is I'll be zeroing this or using this to, say, check my work down range. So I'll set this up on my table so I don't want to walk down range to see my hits, and I'll use this as my spotting scope, sort of. And I find that hits, whether I'm shooting through this or I'm trying to look for hits using this as a spotting scope, I find that a lot of hits get hidden behind some of these really heavy, thick lines in that reticle. And if you're working through your scope, especially at 8x, at 1x it doesn't seem to be an issue, it is small enough. At 8x, everything is so heavy, big, and thick in that reticle or in your viewing window that it obscures far too much of it for you to effectively work through your scope. So for the reticle, I hate the reticle. In normal use case so far, I do like the scope as far as the clarity, crispness of crispness of view through it, and its ease of use with a good eye relief and nice large exit pupil. But I cannot get behind this reticle. Now, with that being said, right now the sun is at like 10 o'clock to me, and 10:30. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the accuracy test at this moment, because additionally, with light coming into the end of the scope, right, the reticle turns a silver white, and this is something I've never experienced before, or at least something I've never noticed before. Maybe it's because of how big and thick all the reticle in this is, all the etching, but it turns a color that makes it very hard to use, borderline unusable with light coming in towards the scope. Anytime your light source is here, it's fine. But if your light source is coming at all in at an angle, I get a lot of chromatic aberrations, a lot of glare, and that reticle turns a silvery white. Now, before we get into the accuracy and drop test here, I do want to give a big shout out to Camerado. This shirt here, this is the Sea Smoke, this is the TGC inspired camouflage. I also have the Merc and the Warden. Great clothing, made by another gun tuber, so it's awesome to support these guys. Go check out Camerado. There is a link below with a discount code. All right, so I have 5 rounds of PMC X-Tac M855 loaded up in here. I checked zero on it earlier this morning before the sun was fully up, and doing really well with it. So we are going to attempt this test. That one pulled just a little bit, but all right, let's go down range, check that out. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the one I said I pulled a little bit. So we have about a 1/2 inch, about 3/4 of an inch group there, with a total of about 1 1/4 inches, something like that. This is 50 yards, by the way, because that's what I have it zeroed at. So I have, if you don't count the one I pulled, I knew I pulled it, it's 3/4 of an inch group. Not bad at all. Okay, as per usual, this will now get 3 drops, 1 on each side, 1 on the very top on the desert floor here. So, kick this mag out of the way here. Get this out of my bog tripod. And shoulder height, one side. Shoulder height, other side. And shoulder height, top. Now, oh, what happened? I seem to have broken the gun. All right, so that did not go as smoothly as I hoped. I haven't done anything weird, like I'm not hiding anything from you guys. I bent the buffer tube a little bit, and that was the problem. Perfectly fine now. All I did was give it a smack on my tailgate, straightened right out. The buffer tube has nothing to do with how accurate this will be, though. For a note, on the 1 to 10 LPVO, Guardian, not to confuse you all, but Guardian, I did bend the mount in the same test, so let's see what happens here. All right, let's go check that out. So, as I said before, I did bend the mount on the first one. The mount on these scopes are extraordinarily soft. Here's my original 5. This is what I was doing earlier when I said was checking 0. No hits. So, I'm gonna do the test I normally do. I'm gonna load up some rounds. I'm gonna start here, do my point of aim here. If I don't see anything, I'll do my point of aim here. If I don't see anything, here, and then here, and we'll try to find out how far off it bent. All right, I have 10 rounds loaded up. Let's test this. All right, bottom center. So this is sort of what I'm talking about when it comes to this big ass, heavy, thick reticle, is I'm now moving the scope around a lot just to make sure any hits aren't hiding behind those thick lines. And I don't see anything. All right, top of the head. Okay, center of target far left. Nothing. Center of target far right. All right, nothing. So I'm going to go the full scale. There is elevation hash marks in this. I'm going to go the full scale of hash marks under the center of the target, center. Holy shit. Okay, let's do that again. Yep. Yep. Okay, let's go downrange. And, wow. Let's go downrange, check that out. So I was holding about here for my crosshairs, for my point of aim. And here's those 3 shots. So I aimed here, nothing. I aimed here, nothing. I aimed here, nothing. I aimed here, nothing. So I ended up the full scale, which at 50 yards is about a foot low. And so I was about a foot, 2 feet, 26 inches, 25 inches low or high, and then another 10 inches left. Now upon initial inspection, everything works well, so I don't think the tube is bent, but as you can clearly see here, same thing that happened to the 1 to 10, the front edge of the mount bent down considerably, and actually bent down more than the 1 to 10 mount did. So that's the culprit. It doesn't appear that the tube itself or anything with the tube is bent. There is quite a bit of damage to the turret here, and then there is quite a bit of damage to the turret here, a big chunk taken out of it. But other than that, from the drop tests, the major damage is the bent mount. So let's get into price. If you're still with me, if you haven't been like, fuck that thing, let's get into price. And to the YouTube censors, I'm not selling anything, I'm not selling this, I'm not selling any regulated goods. I'm just giving the viewers the information they need to make an informed decision. Now, if you like this reticle, if you like what this has going on for you, or with it, it is $470 without the mount. The mount is another $50, so you have about $525 here in this 1 to 8 first focal plane scope. In my honest opinion of that is that Gideon got a little too big for their britches pricing this thing. I think that you can get a scope with far less issues for less money. If this is your thing, go for it. I think the 1 to 10 second focal plane LPVO as a scope, standalone scope, when I priced it, when I reviewed it, I thought that was a pretty good price for that scope. I think this one is a bit rich. But they all can't be home runs, can they? It doesn't matter what manufacturer you are. I will put a link to Gideon down below. Feel free to peruse their website, see what they got. And like I said, I do get some monetary kickback if you buy something through my links, so I do appreciate that. Check out their pistol red dots, which I really personally believe are their shining stars of their inventory. And I also like the Advocate, which is the 1X Prism. I think that is a really bulletproof, nice product. And to everybody out there that is watching, I do appreciate the support. Thank you for stopping by and watching. Don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by becoming a member. It's very inexpensive. It's $5 a month. You get video previews and some members only posts. That's about it. I'm not really super creative, so I do appreciate all of you out there that are supporting the channel in that way. And to everybody else, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.